The Russian invasion of Ukraine continues, although they appear to be moving in the wrong direction from the Russian point of view. It was announced that Russia is going to be withdrawing from Kherson, the only regional Ukrainian capital it has held throughout this invasion. They are retreating from it, destroying bridges along the way. Now, the announcement of this most recent withdrawal follows weeks of Ukrainian advances towards the city and a race by Russia to relocate more than 100,000 of its residents. So the continued just mass kidnapping. Like, you know how genocide is the word we apply to killing on a mass scale? What exactly do you do for the relocation in this way? But anyway, this is just the most recent version of it. Russia's fought for months to hang on to this pocket of land. It's very important in terms of their ability to resupply and a number of other things. Anyway, that's not the way that they wanted the couple-month follow-up to their massive influx of new soldiers to go. They did their big draft. They've been sending tens of thousands of new soldiers in, and yet they continue to lose ground, JR.
There I am. There you are. This is one of those things, as you see, like you said, at least there's decent news when it comes to the withdrawal and the release of this one major regional city here. The thing is, though, after all this, these months and months of all this fighting, civilians dying, infrastructure being blown up, devastated families, and Russians as well, let's keep it real, people who are trying to get away from the situations when it comes to trying to draft more folks, all this, and at the end of it all, seemingly, let's just retreat and go back, and then everything that was devastated is just kind of like, that's just what happened. It's the remnants of, this is what happens when it comes to these types of self-serving type of invasions, off the wall things where, hey, we're just gonna do it. And then if and when it doesn't work out, all the devastation that was left is kind of for nothing. I mean, I prefer it than it being the worst scenario. But after all that, nothing. Death, destruction for nothing.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's military strategy is weird in that, like, generally doing the same thing multiple times, they say that's the definition of insanity. And but I don't think in this case it is. Like, they're retreating from this city thinking that's the solution to their problems, but it's not. But ironically, if they were to just retreat a couple more times, just keep going in that direction, it would actually solve your problems. It would stop problems like, for instance, the news that around 440 Russian conscripts sent to fight in Luhansk were killed by Ukrainian shelling just in the past couple of days. That was after they were abandoned by their commanders. Russian reservists told The Guardian that out of 570 mobilized draftees, only 130 survived the attack. I saw men being ripped apart in front of me. Most of our unit is gone, destroyed. It was hell. Another soldier said that hundreds of reservists died that day. 2 weeks of training doesn't prepare you for this. They had been told, by the way, before they were attacked, we need you to dig trenches around this town. They were given 3 shovels. So they don't have the training. There's no way they could create a defensible position with a couple of shovels. And anyway, that soldier says when it all started, the officers immediately ran away. And the thing is, like, this is clearly good news for the Ukrainians, but this is terrible news. That is hundreds of Russians who, for all that we know, had no interest in being there. They were forced, potentially at pain of imprisonment or death, to go there. They weren't given any training. They probably have no idea why they're there. They don't have the equipment, and they're just left to be killed by the hundreds. This is an amazing, massive tragedy. And like, the Ukrainians have to defend their territory. They have to continue doing this. This is on the Russians, and not just on their cowardly commanders, but their cowardly generals who are keeping them there because of their fears about political ramifications. This is exactly what we said was going to happen when they announced this draft plan.
Yeah, I know. I'm glad you're bringing up this point as far as many of these Russian folks and then families of these Russian soldiers and humans, regular folks who didn't want to be involved in this whole thing. There's other humans here that get caught up in these types of decisions for the sake of a few other people. And we should see a lot of these parallels. This is the death and destruction portion of it. But when it comes to the way that we go about anything politically in many of these countries, it's still just ignoring the humans that are involved in the toll that it takes on so many families and people. Do you think these Russians, many of these folks and the families of them, have positive things to think about Vladimir Putin right now, or forever will? But then say the retreat finishes, everything ends, and everybody's like, oh God, it's over. It's not over for so many people on both sides of this conflict. It never will be.
Yeah, if they had just stopped instead of the draft, it already would be a massive historic tragedy for Russia, being insane loss of life. They've decided to double down on that. And eventually it'll be triple down and it'll just keep going, needless death. I'm gonna give one more news update, and heads up to the director. Don't go to any of the elements yet, because I actually want to switch the order of this. But there's an archpriest, a Russian archpriest, Mikhail Vasiliev, who in October gained media attention for a television interview. He told Russian women, be fruitful and multiply, as the order for the mobilization was going on. He says, thus, she would not find it so painful and terrifying to part with her children. The argument was, you're scared that your child is gonna needlessly die in this war, just have another one. Just pump out a baby and then it won't matter that your sons die. Well, in an ironic twist of fate, he died in Ukraine, that archpriest, he was killed. No word yet on whether his mother created a backup kid so that it wouldn't hurt her too bad. And I don't want anyone to die. I'm not gonna spare too much of my feelings on this particular guy, because he felt his job as an archpriest was to encourage women to create more soldiers to needlessly die for the glorification of Vladimir Putin.
Yeah, this is an intersection of belief systems that were based in far past, long ago past, of people thinking that there's this glory in going to the front lines and die for no reason, just like it's my country, they told me to do it, I'm gonna go die. It doesn't happen the same way that it used to. People have other aspirations in life. Maybe you think, hey, I'd like to live past 25 years old. And also mothers not thinking, here's an expendable child, let me have 7, and if I lose 4, that's okay, because those 4 are no different than the other 3. No, people aren't thinking that way anymore. So you can't still sit back in this ancient thought process and be like, just kill them all for the glory of Vladimir Putin and Russia. No, people don't want that anymore. And as a matter of fact, again, like I'm glad you said, does he think that's gonna work out for his family? It's always someone else's family that should go and sacrifice all their children, not yours.
Yeah. Exactly. So look, he didn't need to die. How you like your war now? Again, and like we know that some of the military commanders had been dying early in the conflict. They seem to have gotten the lesson that they need to just run and leave their soldiers to die. But you'll note that Vladimir Putin is not picking up an assault rifle. Like he's never gonna be any risk. This is always the way that it works out. He doesn't feel the cost.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.